Nidhogg 1 was a game that came out of nowhere, and quickly became wildly praised by us here at KBMOD Gaming. It produced lots of epic matches at our couch streams and our charity events, and it even spawned an intense rivalry between myself and Bob Post. So imagine our excitement when Nidhogg 2 was announced, and we found out that it was coming out the week of our Extra Life LAN this year. Thankfully, I've had the chance to play it early. I got a review copy for it, and I'm going to provide for you guys a review of Nidhogg 2. I didn't get it, I didn't plan this to get a leg up on Bob Post going into the weekend, but it definitely does help. Here's our review of Nidhogg 2. So some of you out there may be asking, what the hell is Nidhogg? I've never seen this Nidhogg 1. What is this? Well, Nidhogg is a game that pits players in a 1v1 fencing match. The goal of each player is to run to the end of the level. If you spawn on the left side, you run to the right. If you spawn on the right side, you run to the left. You go through multiple stages of the level until you reach the very end. Now here's the thing. You have to kill your opponent before you can move across the stages of the level. If you don't kill them, then you're kind of stuck there on the screen. If your enemy kills you, you have to defend your zone from keeping the enemy from advancing. If you let them just run by, they're just going to keep running until they reach the end of the level and they're going to win. That's the idea of Nidhogg in a nutshell. It's just two players against each other, going back and forth, trying to reach the end of their level. Thankfully with Nidhogg 2, I can say it's pretty much the exact same game with just a visual makeover and some new stuff to mess around with. A lot of people were kind of turned off by the new art style. It's an art style that's kind of a little bit more grotesque, but I found it pleasant to look at the same time. Nidhogg 1 was just all about pixels. Pixels here, pixels there, pixel characters, pixel blood, pixel levels. They've kind of made over the game. I wouldn't say it's an upgrade because some people are just completely turned off by the new art style and prefer the pixel style. So I won't say it's an upgrade in graphics. It's just, you know, it's a makeover. I personally enjoy it, but some people don't. My biggest worry when I saw the announcements trailer with the new makeover was that it looked slow, it looked sluggish, but thankfully I can say that the controls are still tight just like Nidhogg 1, and the movement speed and everything like that is exactly the same from Nidhogg 1, just with some, you know, tweaks and balance changes, I should say, carrying over from Nidhogg 1 to Nidhogg 2. But we'll get into the combat and all that stuff here in a few moments. In Nidhogg 2, the first thing I noticed was that there are more levels to experience. In Nidhogg 1, there were only 4 levels to experience, and we mainly stuck to Castle because it was flat, there wasn't many elevation changes, and just all the extra gimmicky stuff in the other 3 levels just weren't fun to deal with. Castle was basically the final destination of Nidhogg 1. Thankfully in Nidhogg 2, there are 10 levels now to experience, so you can change things up a lot. And each of the levels, you know, have their unique layouts, but they're actually fun. Each level has their own unique soundtrack that fits the style of the level perfectly. And I really did kind of enjoy the lighting styles and the lighting changes that they used between the different levels. There's a nice level, there's a forest level, there's one that takes place inside of an actual Nidhogg. There's one by a volcano, so like a lot of different lighting changes and stuff really make each level feel unique and special, and I personally enjoyed playing on each of them. I didn't find any of them a chore to play on, so that was a welcome change from Nidhogg 1. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this review, and that's talking about the combat. In Nidhogg 1, players had a rapier as their weapon, and that was it. It's a weapon that stabs forward. You can attack and block low, medium, and high, and kind of dance around your enemy's attacks with that as well. It was a fun little dance to play with people, but they have added 3 new weapons to the game to add to that element. We'll start with the rapier though. It feels exactly the same, it looks exactly the same, the same attacks are there. On top of the high, medium, and low, you can also throw your weapon. This goes for all the weapons as well. You can throw the weapons, or you can use them to, you know, attack your enemy and block your enemy's attack and stuff like that. Because the throw isn't always safe. If the enemy sees it coming, they can just duck right under it, and then you're left without a weapon, and that's not good. So the rapier is basically the exact same from Nidhogg 1. High, medium, low attacks, high, medium, low blocks, has decent range, stabs forward, and all that stuff. They have the dagger. The dagger basically behaves like the rapier, but has a lot shorter range, attacks a lot quicker, and I feel like after a roll, if you have a dagger in your hand, you can actually stab a little bit quicker than any other weapons as well. I could be wrong on that, but it definitely felt like it stabbed, and the recovery for that after a roll was a little bit quicker than the other 3 weapons. You have the broadsword. Broadsword I felt had the longest range of them all. It does a sweeping attack either up or down based on if you're holding it high or low. It cannot block in the mid, so your mid is completely wide open if you're using the broadsword. The attack, like I said, is a little bit slower, but it can knock enemies' weapons out of their hands as well. That's an advantage for it. So if you're on the edge of their attack range and they're on the edge of your attack range, you'll knock their weapon away and they'll be left weaponless. Not completely helpless, just weaponless. And then there's the bow. The bow to me is the highest skill weapon in this game. It takes a second or two to draw the arrow back to shoot it. The arrows can be shot either mid or low, and the arrows can be deflected back at you if you shoot it and then the enemy, attacks the arrow. It can be deflected back at you. So you kind of have to be really careful with it, but you can kind of bait people into, shooting low, having them jump, then shoot a mid one real quick and have them jump onto the arrow. It's a really high skill weapon. I feel the highest skill weapon in this game, and it is a ton of fun to use. I am just complete garbage with it. So that's that. In the game modes where you have all weapons there, every time a player dies, they spawn in with a new weapon. It seems to be on a set rotation once the match has started, but it was a different rotation each match I did play. But not just the broadsword can knock weapons out of each other's hands. Dagger v dagger can knock the weapons out of each other's hands. Rapier versus rapier, so on and so forth. All weapons can be knocked out of each other's hands. It's just the broadsword does have a greater chance of knocking weapons out of hands compared to the other 3 weapons. As far as the dive kicks are concerned, dive kick spam is no longer possible. My beloved dive kick spam is no longer a thing I am able to do, unfortunately. It makes me sad, but it is a balance fix that did need to be put in. It is how I beat Bob in 29 seconds flat in one of our games because I just dove kicked the shit out of him. So with dive kicks, both characters are knocked to the ground if a dive kick is connected, with the one initiating the dive kick, the one actually hitting the dive kick, having a slight advantage to get up. If it is whiffed, then it is easily punished because that person's just laying on the ground, and it's a few recovery frames to get up from it. So whoever, was intended to be hit by the dive kick can just easily run up and stab that person. And as the same with Nidhogg 1, you can catch enemies that are dive kicking at you on your sword if it's held high. So that is still an option to thwart off any sort of dive kicks coming at you. Another thing with the game, another combat change, is that rolls no longer seem safe. Rolls were always kind of a safe choice to do in Nidhogg 1, I felt. They could have been punished, but the frames to do it were pretty tight. There's a wider window now to punish those rolls if someone's coming at you, so that is nice because it was pretty easy to just kind of roll across the stage as well, compared to just running across. So those are 2 welcome changes that I do welcome when it comes to balance. And then the new weapons and stuff are definitely a ton of fun to use. It definitely changes up the gameplay a little bit compared to Nidhogg 1. As much as I did just love using one weapon, it's really interesting to see a broadsword versus bow, or a dagger versus a rapier, because the rapier has a clear advantage there, so on and so forth. So it brings some new dynamics to the combat for sure. One thing that has been added to Nidhogg 2 that was sorely needed in Nidhogg 1 was character customization. You can choose your character's color, you can choose what their hairstyle is, what head accessories they have, what they're wearing on their torso and on their legs, all to make it a lot easier to tell which character is yours. We ran into some issues at times, depending on the TV or the screen that we were playing on, to tell which character we actually were going into the match. It was hard to tell. With all these customization options, you can easily pick out which character is yours on the screen, and you'll be able to follow them easily throughout the whole game. Another thing that has been brought over from Nidhogg 1 into Nidhogg 2 are all the different options you can set for your private matches. You can set time limits, which are super helpful for those matches that just never seem to want to finish. Adding a time limit definitely does add some tension and add some urgency to the players to get to their end of the level. You can also choose what weapons can or cannot be used inside the match and what players will spawn in with when they respawn. So that's pretty nice. There are also all the different cheats, the quote-unquote cheats that you can use for the game. Throw only mode, baby mode, which is just crawling only. There's a low gravity mode. There's one where you can rip the spines out of your enemies and use their spines as a sword. There's all kinds of different little game modes that just kind of, you know, spice up the gameplay a little bit, change it up from its vanilla style, and, you know, makes it a little bit more exciting to play. Nidhogg 2 takes everything that we left from Nidhogg 1 and just expands on it just ever so slightly, but with a fresh coat of paint and all wrapped up in a nice little bow. I was worried about Nidhogg 2 when I saw the announcement trailer. I thought the gameplay looked slow. I thought the addition of all the weapons was maybe a little bit too much and was going to change the gameplay dramatically. And the art style was kind of iffy to me at first, which I've come around to after actually seeing it in quote-unquote person. But I can definitely say that Nidhogg 2 is as much fun, if not more fun, than Nidhogg 1. I'm excited to play this at our charity events over the next few years, and I'm excited to see the rivalries blossom between, you know, those who are playing. I believe that the rivalry between myself and Bob Post is just beginning, and the salt mounds are going to just grow when I shoot Bob in the face with a bow and arrow this weekend at Extra Life 2017. I cannot wait. Hope you guys tune in then, and thank you guys all for watching. For more reviews on video games and hardware alike, as well as first looks, editorials, and build guides, be sure to head on over to KBMOD.com.